Alright. Hey, I'm Aqua or Aquarius of Fallen Snow if you don't know me. Welcome to this genius style lyric breakdown video. If you've been here before, happy to have you back. If this is your first time seeing one of my videos, let me break it down for you. So in these lyric breakdown videos, I'll go through my songs a section of my bars at a time and kind of explain them to you as I go, as well as more in-depth look at each of the songs. In this video is going to be a bit different because I'm going to be breaking down the lyrics to all three of the songs on my most recent EP, the Swirlwind EP. And this is a Plug&B EP, which is really the first one I posted on my page, and I think these might even be some of the first Plug&B songs I've even posted. And I just love this genre and the beats, and I think personally my sound works pretty well on them, but you'll have to let me know by listening to them yourself, I guess, right? So real quick before I get into the songs and breaking down the lyrics, I'll explain why I named the EP Swirlwind, and I'll kind of give you a few of my thoughts on it before I get into the breakdown. So I called it the Swirlwind EP because if you're familiar with my SoundCloud or my music, then you know that this is kind of a trend or something I've been doing with a few other producers where I make EPs, where I make projects where all the songs on those projects have beats made by the same producer. So for this one, the producer was Swirl. I like kind of paying homage to both the producer and myself in the title to show that it's kind of a collab piece. So for this one, I called it the Swirlwind EP because if you didn't know, the Aquarius zodiac sign is actually an air sign. And then I thought that a fun play on words would be kind of going off the whirlwind concept of, you know, things going quickly or things being in a rush or a blur. So I thought it would be a cool kind of double entendre there, Swirl's name in the title as well as mine in a way, without making it too obvious like some of my other ones. For example, the last two EPs I did this with are A Frozen Over Globe, Anthony and the Kill a Cold, as well as Old Banks and the Waterboy EP, which I think both turned out great, and the one I did with Anthony I actually did a deluxe of, called A Frozen Over Globe Deluxe, and if you want to check out any of those projects that are also available on all platforms, you can easily find them through the link tree in the description of this video. Not only will that link you to my Spotify and my SoundCloud, but also to my Instagram and my TikTok and my other social medias, as well as my Substack, which if you've seen my most recent podcast episode, I started talking about how I started writing a book, and I'll soon be posting sections of it on there. So just wanted to give you guys a quick little update and reminder of what you'll be able to find on there if you're not familiar with my stuff. So without further ado, let's actually get into the lyric breakdown video because I have three songs that I need to break down the lyrics to. The three songs on the Swirlwind EP are Amazing, G&A, and Heavenly. And then on the EP I also had a remastered version of each of the tracks, but because the quality of the original wasn't the best, I wasn't able to do too much with the remasters, but that's besides the point. Going through them in order, I'll start with Amazing here, and let's start with the first section. I ain't looking for fame, brazy, I ain't part them games. Only ever wanted respect for the shit I'm saying, not my face, K. Can't be caring about grades, but now I'm out, I'm using my brain. I'm glad I don't need subs for the turning up, it feels amazing. So yeah, I wrote this one a while ago, back in high school. Yeah, it says the date when I last wrote the bars were 22, so that's 3 years ago from when I'm recording this. And basically I'm talking about kind of how I think, and even since high school when I was doing drugs, talking about how I stopped doing them, and now I'm getting sober so I don't need the drugs to turn up and feel great, and it feels amazing being sober, as well as the fact that I preach this a lot, but I'm definitely not just trying to get famous for my face or trying to look for fame, validation, vanity, whatever it is, because I would rather people care about the things that I say and the ideas that I have, and I would rather get respect for the conversations I'm trying to have or the ideas I'm trying to put into my art and my music, rather than just being another face with, oh, a cool sound or a cool look, you know? But then for the chorus, I actually repeated that section of bars, so I won't go back over it again. So getting into the first section of bars and the verses here, might have been colder as an ego roller, never was one for hitting coasters. Freezy, Aqua was feeling frozen, talking about snow up north, not blow. Waiting for the bus, that tundra wind blowing, cooking up flames, them backseats boiling. Thanking God still, I kick them rock sauce and pills. So yeah, right there, I'm talking about the drugs that I was doing, the different substances. In the first bar there, I'm referencing ego or E, talking about like ecstasy or amphetamines, because I didn't really do ecstasy, it was more Molly. But yeah, talking about how I was more for doing drugs and making art rather than going out and hitting roller coasters or going out thrill seeking necessarily. I was kind of finding my thrills and kicks in other ways. And then talking about my experience, I'm pretty sure I remember writing this, waiting for the bus out at the end of my driveway on a highway, waiting for the bus to come for that 45-minute bus ride to get to school. And that's probably why I was talking about waiting for the bus. The wind was blowing outside, so it was probably cold, but since I'm cooking up heat, it's heating up the bus. And I remember that when it was cold outside and the bus driver had the heaters cranked, it would always steam up the windows and stuff. So that's kind of a little reference to that, if you know kind of thing, right? Shout out all the people who lived in the country and had to take a long ass bus ride to get to and from school. It's a grind, but we got through it and you will too. Now moving on to the second set of bars and the verses. Yeah, I ain't hunting for trophies, Cali sober, call the kid Wally, on Mars a rover. Then I started aging, saying shit worth quoting. I was off the rails when I was sipping on the handle. Even if I'm getting lame, I gotta lead by example. Shout out Wally, that's such a great movie. Barely any dialogue in it, not even from the main characters, not from the robots really, Wally and Eva, but from the people on the ship, right? It's such a good movie. I love the storyline and everything that movie's trying to talk about with the Earth and going to space and coming back, such a good movie. But then yeah, I'm also talking about how, my lived experience, I feel like I've been out to other planets, out in space, being a rover or a scout kind of thing, going out, living my life, getting the experiences to come back and share with people in my music, right? And then as I start aging, saying shit worth quoting, because when I was younger making music, I wasn't really putting as much substance into it. I was still trying to put lived experience and life lessons into my stuff, but not really talking about the system or life as a whole as much. So that's kind of what I was talking about there. And then also talking about drinking and how I would get drunk or fucked up through high school, partying with friends. But now that I'm getting Cali sober, or getting sober, even if I'm getting lame, I would rather be lame and lead by example than to keep doing the dumb shit, right? But then yeah, moving on to the third verse. Damn, I guess it's all part of that master plan. If I get bread, then I'll do my dance. Gotta give thanks to friends and fam, yeah. I ain't trying to care about that cost when we're living underneath them cosmos. So yeah, basically talking about, again, the same ideas, getting sober, talking about the master plan and manifesting my success and how I'll share it with my friends and family, right? And then at the end there, I reference Cosmos, which you'll see in the next bar is a reference to Cosmo and Wanda, or the cartoon or the animated show Fairly Odd Parents. Shout out to that was a great show. But then yeah, this verse isn't too deep, it's more for that reference leading into the next one, and more for the flow and the cadence of the song, which I think it turned out pretty good, even on the original version, I do kind of like the originals more than the remastered tracks, I can't lie, but, personal preference, and I feel like you should listen to all 6 to decide for yourself. But then yeah, moving into the fourth and final verse of Amazing. I wonder, you think there's really Star Wars raging? They all want to be a Han or Luke. I'm feeling like Ben, I'm trying Aiden. If you really want that power, coward, better get your will up. No, I've been training for that day, baby, now the water boy's just waiting. So yeah, you can see how I say I wonder in the track sounds more like Wanda, and it goes more with the Cosmo and Wanda reference like I was mentioning before, as well as getting the good Star Wars references in there. Such a good series as well. I definitely try to put my passions into my music and my art and stuff, and I think Star Wars is a great series, especially talking about these characters yeah, people want to be these main characters, they want to be the heroes of the story, but maybe I'm trying to be a Ben Kenobi, trying to be someone who is involved in the story but is trying to learn from my mistakes and trying to, you know, better the future. And the whole idea with Ben, like Obi-Wan Kenobi and Yoda going into hiding after what happened with Anakin is that, you know, they kind of failed the Jedi Order and all this stuff. It's pretty deep lore, but they basically said, no, we fucked up, we gotta go, you know, go into solitude. But I feel like there should have been a level of learning from it and passing on those messages, which they kind of did, but that shows more with Luke in the later, the final trilogy, you know what I mean? If you're a nerd, you'll get it. If you don't worry about it. But then yeah, going into those other bars, better get your will up, like your willpower. That's kind of like a Green Lantern reference almost, because that's how their powers manifest through the ring, is through their willpower, right? And then that kind of also goes back to the idea of getting sober and the willpower to stay sober, right? Now I'm just on my greens and tobacco and I'm trying to kick those too, but you know, all in due time, right? But then yeah, that's the last verse of the song, and then it goes back to the chorus. So this whole song, like the title references, I'm talking about feeling amazing that I'm getting sober, or Cali sober. California sober is just weed and alcohol, or I guess in my case, weed, tobacco, and alcohol, right? Because I guess that's kind of like what Californian people think sober is, or sobriety is, because they do hard drugs, right? But then yeah, talking about feeling great that I don't need the drugs to party or turn up anymore and get fucked up, like, no, I can just chill, Cali sober, smoke my weed, drink once in a while. I haven't even been doing too much of that lately. And then yeah, just kind of keep going on with my life, right? That leads us into the second song, G&A, or Gratitude and Acceptance, which I actually have to update the tracks on the EP here because they just say G&A, but they don't have the Gratitude and Acceptance in brackets, right? There we go, that's better. So yeah, now that that's fixed, I can get into breaking down the lyrics for this next song, Gratitude and Acceptance. Starting with the chorus here. I had to set my mind for only stacking dough now, like oh wow, they probably think I'm flexing on my hometown. Shit's a shame, I'm really sitting thinking, fishing through the day. Since I'm sober homie, I can't slow down, no. So yeah, continuing these ideas of being Cali sober, not needing the drugs to turn up, as well as referencing the saying, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day, teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime, talking about how everybody's kind of out living their life, but I'm just sitting here thinking, fishing, and if somebody came up to me and asked like, oh, how are you doing what you're doing, I would be happy and honored to teach them, but really nobody is, you know what I mean? But that in itself isn't slowing me down, I just have to keep doing my thing, right? Moving into the second verse of the chorus now. I was a geeker, rather be a teacher, preacher, days I wanted leaving, learning, loving, and the meaning. To life, you really gotta take it in stride, take a breather, got a lil min till you go peace out. So kinda choppy in that last bar there, you got a little minute till you peace out or till you pass away, right? But basically what I'm trying to say there is, yeah, I know I used to do the drugs, but now I would rather teach and preach, I guess, as people call it. Oh, he's preaching, preach. I would rather teach and preach about the days I wanted to leave, but learning how to love and the meaning of life, to take it in stride, you know what I mean? Like, the bars are pretty self-explanatory in that verse, but, you know, I think it just flows so perfectly, especially with the beat. But yeah, I think it's another one of those ones where I was kind of focusing on the flow and the cadence and a little bit more than the words maybe. But that's okay, I really like this song still, I really like this whole project. But let's keep going into the first verse, right? Gotta spit hard to stick around, gotta keep grinding, dough that's pounds, hounds, grabbing that check that's cheddar, I ain't no lick, ain't playing around. I ain't need straps for that, that's why God gave me 2 hands. I ain't need a poke to stick or slash, I'm a sieve like why they clash in clans. So again, a few references in there, talking about how I'm a civilian and I don't know why they need weapons to do all the fighting, like the gang stuff and, wars really. That's why God gave me 2 hands to fight with if I need to, but also to create with, right? And my definition of God is a lot different than other people's. If you want to know more about it, definitely check out my podcast and my other content. You might be pleasantly surprised, I'll say that. You know what I mean? And then yeah, the Clash and Clans bar is also kind of a reference to the game, because through elementary and high school that was a huge game, and I think by the end of high school that was the only game I still had on my phone after like all of those years. The thing that kind of made me delete it after all these years is the fact that they were updating it so much and they were just changing the game to the point where it wasn't really making sense fundamentally like it used to. I guess when you have a game that's been around for that many years and you start making other games, how much different can you make it in each update? But it started getting to a point of redundancy, and again, a little bit besides the point, getting off topic, but that's how my brain works. But yeah, going back to the top of that verse, gotta spit hard to stick around. You gotta rap good to get the credit, to get the respect, and to stick around, right? So I'm saying that I'll keep grinding, I'll keep stacking that dough, the pounds, like UK currency, right? It's also, you could measure it in pounds, the weight of the money, right? And then talking about the other people in the industry or in the world, they're hounds, they're only going for the cheddar, but I ain't no lick, I ain't playing around. Talking about fighting, right? But that's okay. I try to play more of a pacifist role. I only hurt people when provoked kind of thing. I wouldn't hurt a fly unless provoked kind of thing. That's how I try to live my life anyways. So moving into the next verse here. Damn, look around, hella damage, shit's been tragic. Y'all are bots like clones, no wonder they grabbing their blasters. They've been trying to get away from the ways that they living in. I ain't need an FNN, especially not if I'm plastered. Right? So again, another Star Wars verse with the clones and the blasters, but talking about how people are bots, or talking about how people kind of go through life taking damage or having these lived experiences that they might feel is like damaging to them. In reality, it's probably building their character, but then they have these chips on their shoulders or resentment. It's tragic because then they turn into bots, or just like they just start going through the motions rather than actually thinking about what they're doing. And in reality, they're just trying to get away from the ways that they're living in. But I'm saying that I don't need a weapon, especially not if I'm getting drunk or messed up on drugs like I used to. And now that I'm sober, especially not, because I got the hands, right? If I need to, I can fight them off with the hands. But yeah, I try to play the pacifist role, right? Going into the third verse here. What the fuck? Kids that got them fucked up livers. I was a sipper. I ain't sorry to say I hate that feeling now. I don't want a drugged out crowd. Damn. Really want them living loud. Really want them living proud. Right, so then I'm kind of referencing again the sobriety, talking about how, especially looking at the underground scene or rap, hip-hop in general, how everybody's got fucked up livers from how much they're drinking and partying and doing these drugs. They're fucking up their bodies. And talking about how I used to sip, I was sipping sauce, right, sipping lean. And I'm not sorry to say I hate that feeling now, because especially the last time I did Molly before I quit, I popped and then I felt worse. It made me feel shittier. And I think I've talked about this more in depth on my podcast, so you can go back and check that out. But basically that kind of led me to getting sober, was just feeling so shitty on the drugs that I didn't want to do them anymore, right? And talking about how I want that for my fans, my friends, and my family, right? For everyone. I want them living loud and proud, being sober, rather than just fucked up on whatever substance. And then going into the fourth and final verse of the song. In the day-to-day, I'm living by that G&A. I spit philosophy, ain't no games, it's just the way. So catch a breeze, take a breath, make it deep, then relax. Got that gratitude for what can be changed, acceptance for what can't. Damn. So yeah, that's a bit of philosophy I came up with myself, and I'm sure other people have come up with the idea before me, or people could say, oh, you copied or changed this idea from somebody else. But the idea I came up with was gratitude and acceptance, G&A. Gotta have gratitude for what you can change and acceptance for what you can't, right? And then that goes into a whole nother discussion of what can you change if you are everything, you are the universe, you can manifest everything and all that. Technically, you have a lot more power than you think you do, but I find a lot of the time we limit ourselves, right? But yeah, I love philosophy. I love, like I was saying, the start of this song, sitting, thinking, and kind of like analyzing life and my own thoughts, doing the shadow work, all that stuff, right? And then yeah, from there it goes back into the chorus, but I really like the message in this song especially, and how I was able to fit my own ideas and philosophies into this song. Plus I think with the flow and the cadences, it worked really well. I'm sure I've said that a few times by now, but you know, I really like this piece and I'm happy I finally got it out to you guys so that you can listen to it and enjoy it with me, you know? But yeah, I gotta get some more water and then we'll start the third track. Alright, nice. So let's jump right into this third and final song on the EP, Heavenly. So starting with the first verse of the chorus, 'cause baby you've been on my mind so heavily, you're heavenly, you don't even know the way you're helping me. I'm trying to spend the day getting wet and making waves, 'cause baby I'm thanking God that you see anything in me. So yeah, this one is a bit of a dirtier song, but yeah, definitely talking more about love, talking about my girlfriend, Julia, who I'm with currently. She's not here right now, she's on a trip because she graduated college, so she's going down to see family and friends to celebrate. But yeah, talking about how she's always on my mind, and you know, she's heavenly, she's beautiful, she's awesome. I try to tell her how much she helps me and how much she means to me, but sometimes it might not necessarily come across, right? But I try to reiterate it, and then also, you know, making love, having sex, try to get wet and make waves. But then yeah, again reiterating, thanking God that she sees anything in me. But moving on to the second verse of the chorus here. Again, this is a bit of a dirtier song, so apologies in advance if you don't mess with it, but I think it sounds pretty good on the song. But yeah, I gotta get into the lyrics, you know? I'm trying to get in her guts, yeah, working to make her bust. I'm only ever working for the ones I trust, the ones I love. Life's been brazy, situations getting grave. Too many fakes, too many lames, too many I can't even count. So then yeah, again, reiterating sex, making love, appreciating my girlfriend and how she's a real one, but then also talking about how situations brazy, which is just crazy with a B, because I thought it fit better and it flowed better, right? But talking about how many lames and how many fake people there are in the world, and it's crazy, you know? But then yeah, I don't really have too much more to say about that verse or the chorus, so let's get into the verses, right? I'm sorry I'm sipping again, not talking about sauce, I meant my gin. It's been every day this week, sucks cause I don't want shit to end. At least I'm working, cause then I can say I earned it. I know the old school's bad, but better than all them stupid meds. So then yeah, again, going back to the idea of being Cali sober, sipping alcohol, but not sauce or lean, right? And I don't know why I said gin, it was probably for the bar there, but I think I have only had gin once or twice and I really didn't like it that much, or I didn't like the drink. It was probably a gin and tonic, which like, why the fuck would you just mix clear alcohol with like sparkling water? It sounds like such a bad combo, right? But then yeah, talking about the fact that at least if I'm working and making my own money, then I can say I earned it. And I made this song a while ago when I was working, or when I worked enough that I had money saved up, so it made sense, and now I'm back to working, so it still makes sense, right? And then yeah, the same idea I was talking about before with the weed and tobacco, but not needing the meds or medications, right? But then moving on to the next verse here, this one's a bit shorter. It seems like it was a bit of a bridge section. I know I get sporadic, damn it. I don't think it's average. I know we all go through some shit that's leaving us damaged. And that one's pretty self-explanatory. I wish I'd changed the bar there to say like it is average because we are all going through something, not that, oh, I'm getting sporadic and it's not. Maybe I guess I was trying to say it's not on the average level of other people, but yeah, I don't know. That was kind of a weird little section there. But then moving on to the next verse here. Man, I'm only gonna preach about healing, still acting like them lames gon' hear it. Gotta keep pushing, I'll manage. life's too long for shitty feelings. That's the risk we take trying to take care of fakes. It sucks because we're all just doing the race against our number of days. So then yeah, talking about wanting to preach about healing and getting sober, getting better, right? And I'm still acting like the lame fake friends I had are gonna hear it or listen to my music even though they won't. But then talking about how life's too short for shitty feelings and how that's kind of the risk we take is feeling those shitty feelings if we do ever take care of fakes or lames. Talking about my family and people that we've cut off, which I've also talked about in my podcast. So if you want to hear more about that, you can check that out. I'll make sure to link the podcast either at the end of the video or in the description. But then yeah, moving on to the last verse here. It's a verse and a half, I guess. So I think what I did when I chopped up the beat from Swirl, I think it was a sample beat, so I had to chop it up and loop it. I think I added a bridge in the middle there and then loop that section with the bridge. So that's probably where I got the half verses, and then it kind of evens out, right? Yeah, it evens out to 4 verses in the end. So yeah, getting down to the last verse and a half here. Oh, right. The verse and a half, I actually did use it as a bridge where I repeat a verse, but it'll make sense in a sec here. I've been up late again, questioning my fate. I guess I've been thinking about the past, even though day's been great. It's all history now, ain't no mystery how. I'm feeling blessed in every way like I was saved. And then I repeat the second half of that verse, but it's all history now, ain't no mystery how. I'm feeling blessed in every way like I was saved. And then it loops back to the chorus, which that's why I put "cuz" at the start of the chorus, because then it loops perfectly, and I think it's another great song. But yeah, talking about how I stay up late some nights, and especially now that I'm on night shift working again, I'm up all night. But then, yeah, questioning my fate, like, oh, does stuff really matter, or does everything just kind of work out in the end, you know what I mean? But then it doesn't really matter, how it's all history, and it's no mystery that I feel like I've been saved, you know? So then, yeah, that was kind of me trying to do a love song, right? Something I don't do too much, but I definitely want to do more of in the future, or try to work on that, because if there's something I'm not too good at, then I want to try and improve and get better for the future, right? And then yeah, this whole EP is, like I said at the beginning, it's a Plug&B piece, which I guess I should have explained before for people who don't know. Plug&B is like R&B mixed with like trap, so it's meant to be more like rap, hip-hop, trap, mixed with R&B, soul, more like kind of slower, more vibey songs really, right? And I was really trying to show that with this piece, trying to show some more versatility in my art and my creativity. And I think it definitely shows between the songs and the cover art, which I also made myself. I didn't take the picture, but I did add the text to it, right? And then, yeah, I think it turned out great. Again, I've been sitting on this for a while now, like 3 years now. So I'm glad that it finally got to see the light of day and get out of the vault, and then you guys get some new music, right? Since this EP has dropped, I have a new single that has released as well, and I'm planning on doing a lyric breakdown video for that song as well, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, if you have any questions about the EP or about my bars, my lyrics, anything that I talk about in this video, definitely drop them in the comments, because I'd be happy to reply to them and let you know the answer. That being said, if you enjoyed this lyric breakdown video, make sure to leave a like, share, and like I said, comment, and subscribe while you're down there, not only to help us build the community and grow the family, but then you never miss a new upload. And right now the possibilities are endless on what it could be. Could be another lyric breakdown video, podcast episode. I'm planning on doing a stream for 50 subscribers, which we hit recently, so stay tuned for that. Sorry that I've been MIA from social media. That's kind of what I was talking about in my last podcast episode, so if you want an update on what I've been doing and to hear more about the book I started writing, which I kind of mentioned a bit in the middle of this episode or earlier on, definitely check out that podcast episode and it'll catch you right up. I also read a bit of the start of the book, so I would love to get your opinions on what you think of it and what you think could be changed, improved, constructive criticism. I'm always glad to hear it. it would be greatly appreciated, truly. But then yeah, this video is definitely gonna need some editing, so I'm sure by the time I'm done editing, this will be around like half an hour to 45 minutes maybe. That's a pretty big rough estimate there, but we'll see. I hope it's not too long and rambly. And again, let me know what you think of this video and the songs that I was talking about, the lyrics that I broke down. I want to hear what you think, right? But then yeah, I won't ramble on too much longer. I'll leave this one here for now. But like I say in all my videos, I love you. Make sure you stay safe, good luck, and take it easy.